Syed sir. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Jyoti madam. Good afternoon, everyone.
Just we will wait for 1 minute. Let us have the students join. Because
Yeah,
they
sure.
have to come.
Hope I'm audible, madam.
Yes, yes. Yes, you are on.
Okay. Thanks for the confirmation.
Sahiti? Sahiti?
Madam, how many students were expecting?
Actually 35, sir. So
Okay.
now I think there are around 24. So these are the students from different colleges, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So
Now
everyone is
let
joining
us start.
via Zoom itself.
Yes, sir. Via Zoom only. So let us start our session, sir. So now I would like to introduce Syed Shahid Ahmad Garu. So Mr. Syed Shakib Ahmad Garu has completed his M.Pharmacy from JSS College of Pharmacy with gold medal, and sir is working in regulatory affairs profession, and he has experience in clinical regulatory affairs currently working in Indigenous Limited Bangalore, and prior to this, he has worked in Paraxis, Paraxis International Bangalore. So, with this brief introduction, now I would like to invite Mr. Syed Shakib Ahmad Karu to present this session.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Syed,
Thank you
sir.
so much for having me in your sessions. So I would like to thank Jyoti madam for even inviting me and delivering a session on the topics which she has discussed with me. Thanks, madam. Thanks everyone for joining the call. So shall we move ahead with the presentation, madam?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Hope I'm audible to everyone. Please confirm if you are facing
Yes,
any
sir. Yes, sir.
issues.
Yes,
Okay.
it is audible.
Thanks for the confirmation, madam. Thanks for the confirmation. Okay. I'll be sharing my screen. Please let me know, ma'am.
Sure.
So before sharing, as Jyoti madam introduced, she gave short introduction about me. I have completed my M.Pharmacy and Bachelor of Pharmacy, both in JSS College of Pharmacy, Mysuru, which comes under JSS AHER. And currently, I'm associated with Indigen Limited Bangalore as a Regulatory Affairs Associate Solutions. So prior to this, I was working in Paraxin International Limited Bangalore. Over there, I have worked for 2 plus years. And it's been 1.5 years in Indigen Limited. And prior to this, I have also worked in Strides. So with this short introduction, I would like to present my screen. So wherever anyone has any question, please do not hesitate to ask any questions. Okay, I'll be happy to answer your questions. So today we have two topics. So one is Drugs and Cosmetics Acts, and another one is DPCO and NPPA. So moving ahead, in the interest of time, I'll be presenting my screen. Please let me know. Hope my screen is visible. Hello?
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir. Yes.
Okay.
That's some cosmetic.
Okay. Thanks, ma'am. Yeah, good afternoon, students. So today's topic is Drugs and Cosmetics Acts 1940 and it rules 1945. So basically, everyone have gone through this topic, and many of you, those who are studying regulatory affairs, they are familiar with this topic, and those who are not into the regulatory affairs department are that stream. So you might be having a little bit information if you have studied in your bachelor's. So the topics today's agenda is like, what is the history of D&C Act and what are the objectives of the D&C Act, and what is the amending acts and adaptation orders and the latest definitions, and what are the schedules to the act and its rules. Coming to the history of the D&C Act, in the British era, where they were misruling and providing a poor healthcare system to the Indian citizens. So before coming to this D&C Act, British was ruling India and they were providing very poor healthcare systems to the Indian citizens, so that whoever the Indian citizens were taking the medicines or any healthcare systems, any healthcare facilities they were using, and that were ruled by Britishers, and there were like many circumstances like they didn't had a proper rules and regulations since they were ruling. So Indians, they did not had that much rules also. So coming to that, after seeing that, so Indian citizens and Indian medical associations, they observed and they formed a drugs inquiry committee. So observations are made by drugs inquiry committee by Indian medical associations. So later reports in the Indian Medical Gazette during the 1920 to 1930. So once they observed the poor healthcare system, the drugs inquiry committee was made by Indian Medical Association and reported during the 1920 to 1930, and later in 1940 the Drugs and Cosmetics Act was formed, and in 1945 the rules under the act was formed. Once these rules and acts were formed, and it was extended to the entire India. So coming to the objectives, so the main objective of the Drug and Cosmetics Act is to regulate the import, manufacture, distribution, and sale. So whenever they created the D&C Act, the main objective of the act is import the drugs from outside and the manufacturing and distribution. So all manufacturers and the distributors who are all manufacturing the drugs, so are they manufacturing as per the D&C Act or not? So everyone was following their own rules. So once this D&C Act came into the effect, so they had a clear and set of rules, so all the manufacturers had to follow the same rules. And also to this D&C Act contains the injurious substance they required to control. So whenever they had any whenever they were facing any problems, they had a very strict controls. And this act regulate manufacture and sale of drugs and cosmetics through licensing. So in order to manufacture and sale of the drugs as well as cosmetics, India, whoever are manufacturing the drugs and cosmetics in India, they had to have the license. So this licensing committee was issuing the license upon the registration of their manufacturing units, and then also to regulate and control over the import of the drugs. So there were several other drugs also imported. So there didn't had any export and import facilities. I mean, there were no standard rules. And once this D&C Act came into effect, they had strict rules how to regulate and control all the import. And second one, and next one is to prevent not of standard quality in drugs and maintaining high standards of medical. The D&C Act, once it is formed and came into effect, they were maintaining the high quality standards in the manufacturing of the drug as well as in the medical treatment, and also to regulate the manufacture, sale of Ayurvedic, Siddha, and Unani drugs. So those were the main objectives of the D&C Act. So coming to the list of amending acts and adaptation orders. So the first one was like in 1949, 42, 49, the Repealing and Amending Act was passed. Once it was passed, and the adaptation of laws order was passed in 1950. And then the Part B States Act was in 1951. Later, in 1955, the Drugs Act was formed. And then the same act was amended in 1960. And later, whatever the 1960, the Drugs Act was formed, and that act was also again amended in 1962. So whenever we have any revisions to that act, so it will be calling as amendment. Any changes or revisions, whatever happens, so it will be considered as an amendment. Later, in 1964, Drugs and Cosmetics Act was passed. So like that, till 1995 and 2008, the Drugs and Cosmetics Act was revising and they made many amendments, and now we have the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, which is under 2008. So these are the amending acts. Madam, I'm not in one way. Like if I get any response from the students, it would be happy. Hello, students. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Because since it is a one way, I'm not getting any response from other side. Okay, so coming to the definitions, we have several definitions under D&C Act, for which are like Ayurvedic, what is Ayurvedic, Siddha and Unani drugs, what are chemist and druggist, cosmetics, drugs, what are adulterated drugs, and what are misbranded drugs, and what are spurious drugs, and drug inspectors. And moving forward, we have in detail. So first of all, like what is Ayurvedic? So Ayurvedic drugs are like, it's like Ayurvedic treatment and Ayurvedic drugs. It is an ancient Indian medical system, which is known as Ayurveda. It is completely based on the natural and holistic approach to the physical and mental health. So it is completely, Ayurvedic means it is completely based on natural and holistic approach. So coming to the Siddha, it's a form of traditional medicine which is originated in southern India. It is the oldest system of the medicine in India. The Siddha type of treatment is followed in southern India, especially in Tamil Nadu part of the India. And Unani drugs, Unani is like, it's a Persian and Arabic traditional medicine, which is practiced in Muslim culture and South Asia and Central Asia. So coming to the second definition, chemist and druggist. So chemist and druggist is like any person who sells or keeps open the shop for dispensing and reselling the drugs. So coming the next one is like, what are drugs? A drug is a chemical substance which are used to treat, cure, prevent, or diagnose any disease or disorder in human being. Most common example here we used to give any person if he or she is facing like whatever the headache, body pain, whatever it is, the most preferred drug is paracetamol. So in case of any healthcare problem also, many people will be preferring for the paracetamol, which is known as Dolo 650. So most commonly preferred drug. So here it's a chemical substance which is used to treat, cure, or prevent or diagnose the any disease or disorder in a human being. This is the definition of drug in like short form. If you go in detail, we have a very big session. We can have a session on this. So coming to the cosmetics. So any article which is to be rubbed or sprinkled or sprayed on or introduced into or otherwise applied to the human body or any part for cleansing, beautifying, promoting attractiveness or altering the appearance, and includes any article intended for use as a component of cosmetics. So the best example we can give this cold cream, vanishing cream. So this comes under the cosmetics. Coming to the adulterated drugs. So in order to be adulterated drugs, like if it consists in whole or in part of any filthy, putrid or decomposed substance. So into the drug A, which is known for the antipyretic category, and some other drug which comes like from different category, which is mixed together, it is known as adulterated drugs. It has been prepared, packed, or stored under the insanitary conditions whereby it may have been contaminated with the filth or whereby it may have been rendered injurious to the health. So these some drugs, they are prepared and packed and it is stored in insanitary conditions. Like if they are not stored properly, it will be like contaminated. So when the same drug which will be used for the treatment of any health issues, so it may cause any harms. So the next thing is like if it is container is composed in whole or in part of any poisonous or deleterious substance which may render the contents injurious to the health. As we discussed in the second, it is also saying the same thing, like if it is container is composed of in whole or in part. If something is there in the containers also, it may also lead to an adulterated drugs which will be injurious to the health. If it contains any harmful or toxic substance which may render into the injurious health. If any substance has been mixed therewith so as to reduce its quality or strength. If anything is added to the drug or the formulation, so the quality will also be decreased and the strength also will be decreased since it will be diluted. Coming to the spurious drugs. If it is manufactured under a name which belongs to another drug. If it is substitute for the another drug or resembles to another drug in a manner likely to cause cheating or bear names of manufacturers which are made up of fictitious drugs which are imported under the name which belongs to another drug. So if a drug, say for example, we have Lipitor here. So it is manufactured by some other X company, and also the same drug which is manufactured by other company with the same name, and the like this API gets changed, so which is known as spurious drugs. If the label container bears the name of an individual or company purporting to be the manufacturer of the drug, which individual or company is fictitious or does not exist. If it has been substituted wholly or in part by the another drug or substance. Coming to the misbranded drugs, if it is so colored, coated, powdered or polished, the damage is concealed, or if it is made up to appear of better or greater therapeutic value than it's really, if it is not labeled in the prescribed manner. So misbranded drugs are like if a tablets or liquid dosage form, whatever it is, like if it is not labeled properly, so it will be considered as misbranded drug. Like in case if we have 5 mg of paracetamol in the tablet, and it is in the labeling section, if they have labeled mis properly, like 10 mg, so it will be considered as misbranded drug. So coming to the patent medicine, I all know patent, like, so if any institution or any research associate, if he's innovating a new drug, so once they are going to enroll to the Indian Patent Association, so we'll be getting a patent from the Indian Patent Association. That is completely, we have many criteria to enroll for the patent. So patented drug is like a drug which is a presented in a form ready for the internal or external administration of human beings or animals, and which is not included in the edition of the Indian Pharmacopoeia for the time being, or any other pharmacopoeia authorized in this behalf by the central government. As it is saying, like it should be not included in the Indian Pharmacopoeia or any other pharmacopoeia. So if a drug or the substance which is newly innovated and which is not included in the Indian Pharmacopoeia, so the patent will be given. So usually patent will be given for the 20 years. Once the patent expires, anyone can take to generate the generic drugs. So the next topic is schedules to the Act and rules. Basically, we have 2 schedules to the Act and 26 schedules to the rules. So we have 2 types of schedules to the Act. which are first schedule and second schedule. First schedule completely deals about the Ayurveda, Siddha, and Unani systems, and the second schedule is completely deals about the standard to be compiled with the import drugs, manufacturing of the drugs, sale and distribution of the drugs. So these are the two acts of the schedules. So the next is like, what are the rules to the schedules? So we have completely 26 schedules to the rules from A to Y. So Schedule A completely talks about the licenses. In order to obtain the licenses, we have multiple applications. So whenever if an applicant is filing any application for the licenses, they should be having a complete information. In case of any incomplete information which is filled in the application form, so it will be not considered as the applications. So coming to the next, the thing is like issuance of the license. Once the application is passed, then the issuance license will be issued by the licensing authority. The third thing is like renewal of license. Renewal of license, like we will be having a specific time period for the each licenses. So once it is, the license is getting closer to expiry, so like before 3 months or 6 months itself, the applicant has to apply for the renewal of license. And the fourth thing is like sending memorandum. So these four subsections which comes under the Schedule A. Coming to the Schedule B, which is the rates of fees for test or analysis by the serial. So we have a specific rates or fees for the test which are carried out by the CDL. Coming to the Schedule C and C1, which completely deals about the biological and other special products whose import, manufacture, sale, and distributions are governed by the special provisions. Schedule C means like it deals about the biological products. So Schedule C, we have biological and special products like ophthalmic preparations, parental preparations, sterile disposable devices whose import, manufacture, sale, and distributions are governed by the special provisions. This Schedule C is a very critical, and like since it is completely dealing with the biological products and the ophthalmic and parental preparations, we have very stringent rules in this schedule related to the manufacture and coming to the sale and distribution of the drugs. So Schedule C1, which talks about the special products which are related to liver special products like digitalis, adrenaline, liver extract preparations and vitamins, antibiotics, hormones preparation, hormonal preparation other than injections whose import, manufacture, sale, distribution are governed by the special provisions. So as we discussed in the Schedule C, it is also like same, like completely talks about the liver special products and antibiotics and hormonal preparations. So some of the examples are for Schedule C1 is like ergot preparations containing ergot not in a form to be administered parenterally. So we have some of the examples like fish liver oil and preparations containing fish liver oil, vitamins and preparation containing any vitamins, hormonal preparations which contains the hormone, and the vaccines in the form of parenteral formulation. So Schedule D, so it is the list of drugs that are exempted from the provisions of the import. Schedule D talks about the exemptions from provisions of the import of the drugs. Like whenever we are importing any drugs from foreign countries, so this schedule talks about that. So Schedule E is like a list of poison substance under the Ayurvedic, Siddha, and Unani system. In case of any poisonous substance or comes under the Ayurvedic treatment or Siddha treatment or Unani treatment, so all those poisonous drugs has to be listed in the Schedule E. So Schedule F is like provisions applicable to blood bank requirements same to process blood components. So we have different types of Schedule F, sorry. So which is Schedule F1, F2, F3. So Schedule F1 is completely like it's a provision applicable to biological and special products, like example, bacterial and viral vaccines. And F2 is standard for surgical dressings. You people know like what surgical dressings are. And F3 is for umbilical tapes. And Schedule F is for standard for ophthalmic preparations. Coming to the Schedule G, it's a list of substances required to be used only under the medical supervisions. So examples we have like bleomycin, carbitamide, metformin, chlorpropamide, ethosuxamide. So these are the example of Schedule G drugs. So Schedule H drugs are the list of substances that should be sold by retail only on the prescriptions. So in case of like directly we'll be going to the chemist or druggist and we'll be asking for the paracetamol tablets. So these are the OTC medicines, paracetamol and some of other drugs. So these are all the OTC medicine over the counter. So Schedule H drugs should be prescribed only with the prescriptions. So without prescription, these drugs will not be prescribed. So the examples are like acyclovir, amikacin, atenolol, alprazolam, captopril. So these all drugs are comes under this atenolol, captopril. This comes under the CVS drugs, and acyclovir is like it is used for the viral infections like HIV infections and all. Come to the Schedule J, list of disease and ailments the drug should not claim to cure. So this schedule talks about the diseases and ailments and which drugs should not claim to cure. So we have some of the diseases like AIDS, this baldness, cancer, asthma. So we cannot give a 100% assurance that with these drugs, diseases will be getting cured. It's like non-curable diseases, but we can have a control on this. So we'll be not assuring some of the drugs will be giving 100% cure to this particular disease. So the Schedule J talks about this. Coming to the Schedule K, list of drugs that are exempted from certain provisions regarding manufacture, sale, and distributions. So coming to the Schedule M, Schedule M is well known and it mainly talks about the good manufacturing practices. So here is the requirements for the factory premises, plants, and equipments. So in order to create a new plant for the manufacturing of the drugs, so all rules and regulations should be followed under the Schedule M, which is good manufacturing practices. There should be only this much square meter should be there for the factory premises, and there should be some greenery area, and what is the premises and how many plants, and the equipments of this much liter should be there, and all the equipment should be cleaned simultaneously whenever we do not have any production in that with the equipments. There should be a cleaning steps, manufacturing steps. For each and everything, we should be having a validations and the procedures which will be coming under the GMP. So schedule M1, again we have in M subtypes like M1, M2, M3. So schedule M1, which talks about the requirements for factory premises for the manufacture of homeopathic drugs. And M2 is for the manufacture of cosmetics. And M3 is for manufacture of medical devices. Coming to the schedule N, which talks about the list of minimum equipment to run a pharmacy. So here, in order to run a pharmacy shop, so some of the mandatory equipment should be there. So in case if you do not have that particular equipments in the pharmacy, the drug inspectors or licensing authority will not be giving the license to run the pharmacy. So say for example, like we should have a refrigerator and we should have a computer system and we should have a proper this almirah types and everything. So there should be a proper minimum equipments should be there. And coming to the schedule O, which deals about the disinfectant fluids, and schedule P is for the expiry date of the drugs, life period, lifespan of the drugs will be calculated under the schedule P. And schedule P1 talks about the sizes of the pack sizes of the drugs. So like for we have packing systems, like how one strip should be packed under the carton boxes, and if you have big packs it should be in the big carton box, and the liquid oral dosage forms should be packed under the bottles, like glass bottles we have, amber color bottles we have. So for each and everything there should be a different sizes for the packing. So schedule Q talks about the coal tar colors permitted to be used in the cosmetics: Guinea green bee, tartrazine, amaranth, ethyrosine, dichlorofluorocene. So these are the examples of colors which are permitted to be used in the cosmetics as the coloring agents. So schedule Q1, it is used of permitted colors used in the soaps. It talks about the soaps and where in the soaps which colors should be used and in which quantity we have to use. So this thing will be in the schedule Q1. Coming to the schedule R, it talks about the mechanical contraceptives. And schedule R1 is for the medical devices. And again, schedule S for the standards for the cosmetics. Schedule T for the requirements of factory premises for Ayurvedic, Siddha, Unani drugs. Schedule U for the manufacturing and analytical recordings of the drugs. Schedule U1, we have subsection of U, which is for the records of the cosmetics. Schedule V talks about the standard for the patent or proprietary medicines. Schedule W talks about the list of drugs marketed under the generic names only. So as we discussed earlier, like once the patent is expired, so generic medicines will be manufactured by submitting the E&D applications for the US FDA Health Authority. So once it is manufactured, that marketing will be coming under the Schedule W. Schedule X talks about the narcotics, drugs, and the psychotropic drugs. And Schedule Y talks about the requirements and guidelines on clinical trials for the import and manufacture of new drugs. So in this Schedule Y, it completely talks on the clinical trials, like how we can import a new drugs to conduct the clinical trials in our country, and how we can manufacture, and like what are the steps we have to take in the clinical trials and all. So these are the schedules, and we have like next is like administration of the act and rules. We have 3 different committees, like advisory committee, analytical committee, and executive committee. So in each committee, the specific like person like Drug Technical Advisory Board will be there. Drug Consultative Committees will be there in advisory committee. And in the analytical team, we have Central Drugs Laboratory, Drug Control Laboratory in states, and government analysts will be there. In executive team, licensing authorities will be there, controlling authorities, and drug inspectors. So this is the administration of the acts and rules. We have come to the D&C Act. In case of any questions, please feel free to ask. Do you have any questions?
Students are requested to post their queries in the chat.
Hope it was a good session.
Yes, sir. Shakib, sir, please proceed for the talk, sir. So if you find any questions in the talk.
Yeah, sure, madam. Moving ahead. Now we'll be discussing about the DPCO and NPPA Act. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, it is visible.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, ma'am. So now we'll be discussing about the DPCO and NPPA Act. DPCO is like a drug price control order, and NPPA is like National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority. So in this session, we'll be talking about the introduction and what is the history of DPCO and what are the objectives of DPCO and what is the mechanism for drug pricing and the calculation of ceiling price of scheduled formulation and what is the NPPA and what are the main functions of NPPA, what is the procedure for price fixation or revision of bulk drugs and procedure for pricing of formulations. So now coming to the introduction, DPCO is an order issued by the government under the Essential Commodities Act in 1955, which enables it to fix the prices of some essential bulk drugs and their formulations. So the DPCO Act came into effect in 1955. With this act, the manufacturers can fix their prices for the bulk drugs and the formulations, whatever they are manufacturing. So all the manufacturers in India should follow these rules to fix their prices. The origin of this control dates back to 1970, when for the first time the government placed limits on the profitability of the pharmaceutical companies. So many companies were taking much more margin. So the Indian government had issued these guidelines, this act, and they had given a limit on the profitability for the companies. Coming to the history, in 1995, this DPCO Act came, and then in Section 3 of Essential Commodities Act in 1955. So in 1966, currently we have 1995 DPCO Act. In 1955 itself, under Section 3 of Essential Commodities, this DPCO Act was came. In 1966, Parliament members felt that the manufacturers were charging high rate. As I told in the introduction slide, manufacturers were charging much more for the drugs which they were manufacturing. So Parliament members were like, they identified like manufacturers are charging more. In order to control high rates, the DPCO Act 1966 was passed under the Section 3 of the Essential Commodities Act under 1955. So they made a revision or amendment for the DPCO Act in 1966. Later, the DPCO Act 1966 was replaced by DPCO Act in 1970. And then in 1974, Hathi Committee was formed and submitted to its report in 1975. And then the DPCO Act 1970 was replaced by DPCO Act in 1987. And finally, DPCO Act 1987 was replaced by DPCO Act 1995, and the latest amendment of DPCO Act is 2013. So there were multiple revisions were happening since from 1955 to 2013. So the main objectives of the DPCO 2013 is to increase the number of drugs from 74 to 348 whose prices are controlled by DPCO. Earlier, only 74 drugs were enrolled for the DPCO. In order to increase the drugs from 74 to 348, this act came into effect and the prices was controlled. In order to regulate and control the prices of 348 drugs by National Pharmaceutical Pricing Policy, those are covered under the National List of Essential Medicines, which is NLEM in 2011. The innovative course of the action diverges from the prevailing DPCO 1995 in that it is based on the simple average price for all brands with market share of above 1% in their segment. The main objective of the DPCO Act is to decrease the prices and to increase the number of drugs which were not enrolled under the DPCO. This new policy also uses as a market-based pricing mechanism against the earlier anticipated cost plus method. At the core of the new regime lies the ceiling price. This would be considered by the taking simple average prices of all brands of a drug with a market share of 1% or more. The maximum retail price of the drug would factor in a margin of 16% to the chemist. Scheduled formulation is like a formulation included in the first schedule, whether referred to by a generic version or a branded version. Coming to the mechanism of drug pricing. So previously, the prices of drugs are fixed by the manufacturer based on their manufacturing costs. Whatever the manufacturers were costed, like if a manufacturer for paracetamol tablet, if say for example, if they are charging for 10 rupees, if they are fixing 10 rupees based on their manufacturing costs, so it will be sold in the market previously. But after the implementation of the DPCO Act, the prices are fixed by the government. Like this paracetamol tablet should be sell under only 5 rupees in India. So like that, they gave us specific ranges for these particular tablets, and it is not decided by the manufacturers. And also it is not completely based on the manufacturing costs. Once the prices are fixed by the government, most of the manufacturers have withdrawn their products from the market and manufacturing levels have been decreased. Since they were facing many issues with the pricing and margins, manufacturers, they withdrawn their products from the market. Later, the level of manufacturing has been decreased. After facing such situation, Government of India implemented DPCO 2013 Act, as we discussed earlier. So again, they revised in 2013, and this act was implemented, by which most of the drugs came under National of Essential Medicines. And the prices are fixed by their simple average of all marketed products of that particular drug, which have market share of more than 1%. And the final MRP of the drugs at the retailer is increased with the factor of 16%. Coming to the calculation of ceiling price of the scheduled formulation, like we have several steps here. The ceiling price of the scheduled formulation of specified strength and dosages as specified under the first schedule should be calculated as follows. Like we have to first take the average of the average price to the retailer, like which is PS. Like PS is equal to sum of the prices to retailer of all the brands and generic versions of the medicines having market share more than or equal to 1% of the total market turnover on the basis of moving annual turnover of the medicine, divided by the total number of such brands and generic versions of the medicines having more share than or equal to 1% of the total market turnover on the basis of moving annual turnover for the medicine. It is completely like based on the annual turnover and the margins of the sale. So this is PS. So the second step is like once the selling price of the scheduled formulation can be calculated like PS into 1 plus M bar 100. So where M stands for percentage of margin to retailer and its value is equal to 16. This value is given by the DPCO Act. And the PS, which we discussed in the previous slide, it is the average price to retailer for the sum, strength, and dosage of the medicine as calculated in the step 1. So this is how the selling price of the scheduled formulation will be calculated. So coming to the margin to the retailer, like how once the wholesaler is distributed from manufacturing company, it is distributed to wholesaler and then it comes to the retailer. So what is the margin for them? So while fixing the selling price of the scheduled formulation and retail prices of new drugs, 16% of price to retailer as a margin to retailer shall be allowed. Say for example, like 100 rupees tablet we have taken. So once this manufacturing unit manufacturers are giving to the wholesalers, so they should have like a 16% of margin should be allowed for the retailer. So like 86 rupees, sorry, 84 rupees to 84 rupees, they have to deal with the wholesaler. So maximum retail price is like selling price plus local taxes as applicable. And for new drugs, the maximum retail price is like retail price plus local taxes as applicable. So that was about the DPCO Act. Coming to the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, which is NPPA. So NPPA is an organization of the government of India to fix or revise the prices of controlled bulk drugs and formulation and to enforce prices and availability of the medicines in the country under the Drugs and Price Control Act 1995. So NPPA is basically, it's an organization which fixes about the prices of the bulk drugs and formulation, and also it revises the prices under the DPCO Act. The Gazette of India, Extraordinary, Part 2, Section 3, Subsection, Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, Department of Chemicals, Petrochemicals. So this is the act in which we have NPPA came into effect. So this order may be called as the DPCO Act, and it shall come into force in the date of publication in the official gazette. So the organization involves chairman for NPPA. We will be having a chairman. Under chairman, we have a member secretary. Under the member secretary, we have 4 sub-teams like advisors we have for the pricing and directors for monitoring and enforcement division, and director for the legal division, and director for the admin division. So under advisors in pricing section, we have bulk drugs and director for the formulations. So these directors will be taking completely care about the pricing of bulk drugs and the formulation drugs. So coming to the functions of NPPA, the main function are to deal with the legal matters arising out of the decision of the authority. So they will be completely involved in the taking of the legal matters which are arising, and to implement and enforce the provisions of the Drugs and DPCO Act. in order to undertake and or sponsor relevant studies in respect to the pricing of the drugs and pharmaceuticals. In order to render advice to the central government on changes or revisions in the drug policy. Whenever the changes or revisions are there, so the NPPA will be giving the advice for the central government, like based on this criteria, this charges and prices will be changed, and so we need a revisions. So based on the revisions, again the same will be circulated to the manufacturers, and based on that the prices will be fixed. And the next function is to render assistance to the central government in the parliamentary matters relating to the drug pricing. As we discussed in the above point, the same thing will be talking here. Coming to the procedure for price fixation or revision of the bulk drugs. As per the DPCO 1995 Act, the prices of the scheduled bulk drugs are fixed by the NPPA. There are several steps which are like identification of drugs, where first they'll be identifying the validity period and whether the concerned manufacturer or the company is manufacturing particular drug. Are they taking in the DPCO? Are they under DPCO Act, like drug produced in the country for which no price has been notified under DPCO? So first, the first step is to identification of the bulk drugs. And it's like collection of data. So data is collected by issuing questionnaire form 1 of DPCO, cost audit report, etc., like verification by plant visits if required. This DPCO committee or NPPA committee will be visiting to the manufacturing units and manufacturing plants, and they'll be verifying all the details, and they'll be issuing a questionnaires for the manufacturer to fill that. And later, if they want anything else, also they'll be visiting multiple times, and then they'll be collecting data. And the third step is to preparation of actual cost statement. So here, like, prepare on the basis of data submitted and collected and verified during the plant visit. So here the actual cost statement will be completely based on the whatever the data submitted by the manufacturers in the form 1 of the DPCO Act, and or in case if the NPPA committee itself is collected and verified the data during the plant visit. This NPPA will not be like visiting every time to the manufacturers. Whenever they feel discrepancies, so at that time they'll be visiting completely based on the requirements. So this preparation of actual cost is based on the data whatever they have provided in the form 1. And then the step 4 is for the preparation of technical parameters. The technical parameters are prepared based on the data submitted and collected. Plant capacity is assessed considering 330 working days for the normal operations of plant, leaving 35 days for the scheduled maintenance of the plant. So each manufacturing plant should give a 35 days for the maintenance, like whether all these manufacturing units are following good manufacturing practices, good cleaning practices, like GLP. So all these are followed or not. So all this maintenance will be taken in this 35 days. The achievable production level is considered at 90% utilization of the assessed capacity, allowing 10% production loss on the account of unforeseen breakdown. Step 5 is for the preparation of estimated cost. The estimated cost for the pricing period are then prepared based on the actual cost and the technical parameters. While projecting the future cost, an increment is recognized at 5% per annum in respect of salaries and wages. The custom duty and other taxes are as per the current budget are considered. So here in this preparation of estimated cost, like prepared based on the actual cost and the technical parameters, whatever they have, and then increment should be like at least a 5% per annum in respect of salaries for the employees. Step 6 is for the calculation of fair price of bulk drugs. The fair price is calculated by providing returns as is specified in subpara 2, para 3 of DPCO Act 1995. Coming to the step 7, fixation of the maximum sale price of the drug. Like when number of the manufacturers of the said drug is more than 1, the maximum sale price is fixed at 2/3 cutoff level or weighted average price depending upon the situations. When one of the more number of manufacturers are there, usually the market will be wide. Simultaneously, prices has to be decreased. The step 8 is for the notification of bulk drug price in official gazette. So here in this step 8, they'll be notifying about the pricing of the bulk drugs. The next is procedure for pricing of the formulations. That was about the bulk drugs. So here we'll be talking about the formulations. So here we have two methods completely like based on the applications of the manufacturers and on suo motu basis. So here prices of formulations based on the scheduled bulk drugs are fixed. As per paragraph 8 of DPCO Act, a manufacturer using scheduled bulk drug in his formulation is required to apply for fixation of price of formulation within 30 days of fixation of the price, such as bulk drugs. So once the bulk drug price has been fixed within 30 days, for formulations also, the manufacturer should apply for the fixation of the price. The time frame for the granting price approval on formulation is 2 months from the date of receipt of the complete information from the company. So once this manufacturer submits the application for the price fixation of formulation, so this MPPA will take 2 months from the date of receipt based upon the complete information whichever given by the company. So in case of any incomplete information, again they'll be asking for the information and again they'll be submitting a new applications, and from that day again they'll be calculating 2 months. So it completely depends on the receipt of the application. From that day they'll be taking a 2 months for the price fixation. So the procedure, as we discussed, two types, like one is based on applications of the manufacturer and another one is on suo motu basis. So based on the applications of the manufacturers, the examination of technical parameters, checking the quantity of the bulk drug as per label claim, the average claim is allowed as per the batch production record or norms fixed by the government. So here, examination of technical parameters, basically they'll be checking about the label claim, like how much label claim they have given, like 5 mg. So whether the particular tablet is of 5 mg or not. Based on the average, claim is allowed as per the batch production record or norms fixed by the government. The next thing is like examination of prices by bulk drug. When notified price of bulk drug exists, the notified price or actual price is considered. In the case of imported bulk drug used in the formulation, weighted average import price is considered via the price submitted by the applicant. The next step is like examination of excipients claim, like how much excipients they have added in order to prepare a 5 mg tablet. Only 5 mg paracetamol cannot be punched as it is. In order to punch, we should use some other excipients. So using the excipient claims also, the prices will be fixed. Examination of PLCC and PC and PM cost. These are considered as per the norms notified in the gazette. And the next thing is like application of maximum allowable price. MAPE, which is maximum allowable post-manufacturing expenses, is given at 100% on the ex-factory cost per indigenous formulation, while Maximum allowable post manufacturing expenses up to 50% of the landed cost is allowed for the imported formulations. Next thing is like working out the retail price. The retail price of the formulations are worked out as a formula given in the paragraph 7 of the DPCO Act, which is manufacturing cost, company cost into the MAPE, which is maximum allowable post manufacturing expenses divided by 100 plus ED. So this is the formula for retail price. So the next method for fixing the price, which is Tsutomoto cases. If the manufacturers or companies do not apply for the revision of formulation prices as required under the paragraph 8 of DPCO Act 1995 within the period of 30 days of the price reduction of the bulk drug or fall in other statutory levels, steps are taken for the Tsutomoto revision. So broadly, the procedures given above is followed. Usually, like how we discussed in the step 1, the same method will be followed for the price reduction. Whenever we have a reduction in the bulk drug, fall in the level of prices in the bulk drug. Meanwhile, this simultaneously, we have to file the application for the reduction in the dosage form as well within 30 days. So this comes to the end of the NPPA and DPCO Act. In case of any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, sir. The students, if you are having any doubts, please post the questions in the chat box, or you can ask directly to the sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I think there was a question, sir.
From Sheikh Farin Taj, we have question.
Yes, sir. They want to know about the career in regulatory affairs and what the skills we need to learn in order to have a career in regulatory affairs.
Okay. So can we know in order to start our career in regulatory affairs, what skill we should possess? Yeah. To answer this question, first of all, in order to enter to the regulatory affairs department, there is no such any hard and fast rules like you should have these skills itself to enter the regulatory. As a fresh graduates, company people will not be expecting anything from your end. Completely based on the availability in that particular department in case of any openings. So basically, they'll be expecting only the communication skills and like whether you're confident or not to the topics. No one will be asking in depth for the freshers related to the regulatory affairs. Only the basic things will be asked. Hope I have answered your question, Farheen.
Yes, thank you, sir. Farhin, I hope it clarified your doubt. If any others are having any other queries, please post in the chat box or you can ask directly to sir. Please unmute yourself and you can ask, or you can post in the chat box. Sir, there is a question from Saina. Brother, is there any chance to shift from FRD to Regulatory Affairs Department?
Yes, Sainath. You can shift from the FR&D to Regulatory Affairs Department. Though you are experienced in FR&D, whenever you are moving to Regulatory Affairs Department, so at that time, you will be like considered as a fresher. Absolutely, you can move since you'll be working in FR&D department and you'll be having a complete knowledge about the R&D department. So it will be helpful for the regulatory affairs as well. So yes, you can move for regulatory affairs. You can change.
Sainath,
Hope I have answered.
Sainath, I hope it was clear. Yes, thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Any further queries?
Any other questions? Rizwan is asking why RA is booming subject nowadays. Regulatory affairs, it completely dealing with the health authorities, right? So everyone is interested to know what the health authority will be dealing, like the company and the health authority, what they'll be dealing. So in order to take approval for the particular formulation or in order to have the clinical trials conducted, so for each and everything, the regulatory affairs will be involved. In that, like all the regulatory authorities will be involved. So there will be like no any other departments with this RA and the regulatory authority. In these cases, people are more interested in regulatory, so that they'll be having direct contacts. Like since currently I'm working as a regulatory affairs associate in clinical trial department, I'll be directly dealing with the Germany people, Germany regulatory authority, Bulgaria authority, all the European regulatory authorities. So in these cases, many aspiring fellows are looking forward for the regulatory affairs.
Yes, Rizwan, I think you understood why regulatory affairs is going to be considered as very important now.
Yes, ma'am.
Any further queries?
Any other questions?
If you are not having any other doubts now, we'll be winding up the session. The material will be shared in the group. At the end of the course, you'll be having an assessment exam for the entire course to get the certificate. So I guess the queries.
Thank you so much for having me in this session, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
for
sir.
attending
Thank
this
you.
session. In case of any queries, feel free to ask. You can contact me via LinkedIn as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for explaining us about the schedules and the DPCO drug price control.
Hope it was good. It was not one way. Hope students have understood.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
And dear participants, tomorrow again we'll be joining for the day 3 sessions at 10 a.m. Please join using the same link. And make sure that you are attending the session so that it will be easy for you to understand the topics. It will be easy. Thank you.